from it. So it's good to refocus.
Well, you always ask the tough questions, Chris. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Chris Cuomo, take it away.
It's great to see you. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And to you, my brothers and sisters, I'm Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. All that Doge drama has taken center stage from what was supposed to be the real cleanup effort, right? Removing dangerous criminals who are here illegally. Remember that? Trump pledged mass deportations on his first day in office. And they started off with a lot of talk. They got a strong guy in Homan in there, and the mandate was clear. Yesterday marked 1 month. So, what do we know? I think it's fair to say we're not seeing the kinds of productivity promised. But that may not be a bad thing. And not only because I believe there's a legitimate debate in this country as to which migrants should stay and which have to go, but it's also proof that there's less activity, especially at the southern border. New CBP numbers show illegal crossings have plunged 94% year over year, meaning compared to last year. In 2024, border agents encountered 4,800 migrants a day. Now they're encountering just 285 a day. Hail Trump! Put the crown down. This reduction is not just because of the last month and not just because of Trump. How do we know? Well, first, the data. In December 2023, there was an historic high. Remember, like 250,000 border encounters? Remember that? Last December, there were 47,000 encounters. Why such a big drop? Biden finally recognized how the lax law enforcement, specifically on that southern border, was hurting him and his party. So they partially shut down asylum claims. You remember that 2,500 limit, that once they hit that, asylum claims would be shut? This led to illegal border crossings dropping. Trump trumped that play. And when he came in, he indefinitely suspended asylum claims at the border. So now you're seeing even more attrition at the border in terms of number of crossings. So that's about stopping the illegal flow. But it's also going to affect how many deportations you have, right? These bad hombres that President Trump talks about allegedly terrorizing our streets. A new report says Biden deported 57,000 migrants every month last year. This month, under Trump, only 37,000 deportations. Experts say, again, there's a reason for this. You have less flow across the border, you're going to have more people readily and obviously apparent to grab, okay? So there are fewer migrants needing to be deported through that space. But Trump doesn't accept that, okay? Why? He's about the biggest, the most, the best. So he doesn't accept this less is more rationale. So he is, of course, firing someone, the acting director of ICE, Caleb Vitello. Now, I'm about to bring in someone who understands this concern much better, but also differently than I do. For me, it is not simply about how many, because I don't think we should judge all illegal entrants as threats. I don't get a scene like this one that the White House put out, got over 100 million views. And they refer to it as the ASMR, the satisfying sensory experience of watching a deportation flight, as they literally seem to be bridling some person with like a chain around their neck. I don't find that scene satisfying. This doesn't work for me as a universal great thing. Of course, we're about law and order. Of course, if people here are illegally and they're a threat to people and they're terrorizing communities, they should go. But I got to tell you, I think this is a bad look for America. But that's just my opinion. So, does it matter whom you're deporting? Okay, are they all violent criminals? A recent NBC report found that about 4 in 10 migrants detained by ICE in the first 2 weeks of February had no pending criminal charges or criminal convictions other than the crime of illegal entry. And I get that it's illegal. And I get that if you have law and order, if you come in illegally, there has to be a consequence. I get it. But there is controversy here, given the original cell, that who we're going to be grabbing are these bad people. Okay? The other question is what the legal immigration situation is like in terms of feeding our economy. 1 in 8 construction workers, 1 in 8 agricultural industry workers, 1 in 14 hospitality workers are all illegal immigrants. So let's discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the ICE enforcement efforts with Trump's border czar, Mr. Tom Homan. Good to see you again, Tom. You've been very busy. I've been hearing from reporters. I've been hearing from people in the field about how you've boosted morale, and people within the ranks are enjoying working for you. So that gets an attaboy.
Appreciate it. But I disagree
Tom,
with a little bit your statement in the beginning, Chris, was inaccurate.
I want you to.
As far as giving Biden credit for decreasing the illegal border flow, they decreased it a little bit, some, but the decrease was mostly them moving buckets, right? So when the numbers were high in the border, they said, okay, how we address this? So they created the CBP One app. They're putting thousands of people in that app every day to cross the border through a port of entry. The same illegal alien population in Mexico, they bring thousands to the CBP One app and say, okay, that's a legal entry, which it's not. And the courts have agreed with me. They're not legal entry. They abuse the asylum process. Then they created another bucket called the CHNV program. Illegal aliens from Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Haiti. They brought him straight into our airports. So the illegal crossings, they only went down because he created 2 more illegal alien buckets to bring them in what he called legal pathways. What President Trump did when he came in, we shut down the CBP One app, shut down the CHNV. So now we're dealing with just illegal crossings between the port of entry. And you're right, they're down 95%. And not only that, I looked at the got-away numbers. Under Joe Biden, the average got-away every day was around 1,400.
Explain what that is, Tom.
They got up a got-away. We have a video, drone traffic, sensor traffic, camera traffic. We have an image of someone crossing the border illegally that weren't apprehended because the Border Patrol is so overwhelmed with a humanitarian crisis that they're caring for the people they arrested or making meals or all the things that have to do with detaining people and taking care of them and processing. So a lot of illegal aliens got away. So, but there's an image. So they're known gotaways. So on the average day under Biden, around 1,400 a day escaped because we had images of them. They got in. We didn't apprehend them, didn't fingerprint them, didn't vet them. In 2023, that number climbed over 1,800. You know what the got away was last 24 hours? 48.
No.
We went from 1,800 to 48. So we got the most secure border we've had in a very long time. I've never seen, and I started in 1984 as border police, I've never seen gotaways at 48. So we've got the border locked down pretty good. There's still some more work to do. We got still some put the barriers up. We still need Mexico to do some things and Canada to do some things. But so I got to argue with the claim that Biden decreased those numbers significantly. He didn't. He just created other programs to bring the same population in to what he called legal pathways, which weren't legal.
Well, it's not an argument. I'm just saying the numbers are the numbers. And the case I'm trying to make is I think you're a victim of your own success. In that, Trump wants bigger deportation numbers, but, you're not going to grab who's not here. So is it fair to get rid of Vitello, not just because he's got an Italian last name, but because, the numbers are going the right way? Why get rid of him? I know you weren't happy either. Why?
Well, that has nothing to do with his last name. I'm married to a Sicilian, so I love the Italian people.
I knew there was something I liked about you, Homan. You had a little bit more class than I thought you should. Now I get it. No, go ahead. What's your explanation?
Look, here's the issue. I've been asked over the last several weeks, am I happy with the numbers? I've said, I'm happy with the numbers, but we need more. We need more. And why do I say that? Look, if you look at the numbers right now, the arrests this past month are double what the Biden administration arrested a year ago. The number of illegal aliens have doubled. The number of gang members have doubled. The number of criminal aliens have doubled. So we're on a good path. However, we got 700,000 illegal aliens in this country with a criminal conviction walking the streets. So we got to have more, which means we need better targeting, more targeting, and sanctuary cities are a problem. Sanctuary cities, we discussed this before. Rather than one ICE agent arresting a bad guy in the county jail, now we got to send a whole team look for somebody that don't want to be found, especially when sanctuary cities are out there educating people on how to evade ICE arrest. So so we're working through that. Pam Bondi is doing some lawsuits, and we're increasing the targeting. So the numbers are going to go up. I truly believe in the future. As far as the removal, Kayla Vitello was not my call. That was Secretary Noem. ICE reports to her. She made that decision apparently. And but if you look at what they actually did to him, they didn't remove him. I looked at what the Secretary Noem put out today was they took him out of the director's job. The director's job is very political. Not only do you oversee the operations in the interior. You oversee international offices. We've got attaché offices in over 40 countries. You've got to deal with HSI, criminal investigation, drug trafficking, gun trafficking, weapons of mass destruction. You got to be on the Hill with Congress. You got to do all these political things as a director. She put him in a position as an executive associate director over ERO. Yeah, it's a lower level, but now all he does now is oversee interior enforcement operation. Enforcement removal operation. Now he spends 100% of his time on interior enforcement operation rather than the title of director. We got all these other duties.
4 out of 10, that number from NBC. You and I have talked about this before. Nobody's going to argue with removing people that are a threat to communities. And you had said, look, if they're found in the company of these bad people, they're going to get swept up too. But you're sweeping up a lot of them. We were hearing stories about those people getting sent to Gitmo. And I know that you win the argument of what an illegal entrance is. They're either it's law and order or it isn't. I get it. But isn't there something more selective about this than all burglars are the same? All illegal entrants. Do you really believe they're the same?
No, absolutely not. And that's why we're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. And most of those non-criminals that are in ICE detention are one of two things. They're the few that cross the border and we end the catch and release, so we detain them and remove them. Or most of them are collateral arrests when we're in sanctuary cities looking for the bad guy. And we have given ICE instructions. When you look for the bad guy and you find others with him, you will arrest them because they're in the country in violation of law. Last administration told ICE agents, you can't arrest somebody for just being in the country illegally. Unless they have a serious criminal conviction, you can't arrest them. And that is fact, is in writing. That's what Secretary Mayorkas said. He rewrote federal statute as a secretary, which you can't do. So look, I've said it from day one. Sanctuary cities, let us in the jail. More agents in the jail means less agents in your neighborhoods. Arresting more guys in the jail means we got going in the neighborhoods less to look for the bad guy. They put us in this position. And I said from day one, you and I talked about this last time, I'm going to give sanctuary cities exactly what they don't want. More agents in your neighborhoods and more collateral arrests because you have forced me in the neighborhood to find these people. I would much rather. It's safer for the community, safer for the agents, safer for the aliens to arrest a bad guy in the jail. And I think the immigrant community's behind me. I think the immigrant community would say, if you ask the immigrant community, would you rather have ICE walk in your neighborhood or would you rather them in the jail? They didn't want them in the jail because most immigrant communities, even though they may be here illegally, they're family people too. They don't want a predator walking through their neighborhood. They don't want someone arrested for DUI 5 times driving through their neighborhood. Let us arrest a bad guy in the jail. That will solve so much of the problem, but sanctuary cities just won't allow it.
Listen, but I got to tell you, this part's a little weird, Tom. They won't allow it. Just sue. You're going to win. You know what I mean? The states and the cities can't defy federal law.
File suits.
I mean, that's pretty easy.
Rock star, she's already filed suits. She's doing it.
But I mean, look,
she's already filed lawsuits.
The AG is welcome and invited to be on the show to explain the case structure whenever she wants. But I'm saying that's easy. Sanctuary cities are a lawsuit away. They're not going to make it. You can't subrogate federal law like that. Any first-year law student knows that. Let me ask you something, though, about a little bit more in the weeds of this. Not to talk politics. I wouldn't do that to you, all right? But the idea, do you believe that in New York City, you're only getting cooperation now because the mayor's legal situation is different?
Absolutely not. Even the mayor's been talking since November about cooperation. I've said it on 100 different shows. When I called the mayor out for 2 years. I was with another network, and I says, look, I think he forgot what it's like being a cop and became a politician. He ought to take the badge and throw it away because he doesn't care about his officers being beat up by illegal aliens. We've all seen the video. But when I met with him in November, I sat down the first time face-to-face. I saw the cop in him. He says, look, I'm a career cop. I don't want my officers attacked by illegal aliens. I don't want illegal alien crime in my neighborhoods either. So let's find a way to work together. So we talked about getting back in Rikers Island. We talked about him helping me find missing children. We talked about helping me find the worst of the worst and take them out of the community. And so I went back and saw him just recently to follow up on what we talked about. I wanted some steps taken on how we can get this implemented. and I talked to him again. So we've had, I think, 3 total meetings. First meeting in person November. We had a follow-up meeting.
I believe you.
Virtually than we had met before. But we've been talking about this since November. I absolutely don't think it's related at all. I know nothing about his criminal case.
But the only reason I
know is I think he's a man of his word. I really do.
I'm not questioning that either. What I'm saying is the timing is curious, right? You say you'd had earlier conversations, you'd wanted this to happen. You just said on some other network you were talking about it, but it didn't happen. And then it did happen after he got the deal from Trump. Coincidence?
No, I don't know if it's coincidence or not. I don't know anything about his criminal case. All I can say is after the first discussion, we started working back and forth on how this process works. I wanted to speed the process up. So we were doing some work after he made a commitment. But, I don't know about his criminal case. It's out of my lane. Well, all I know, I'm grateful he sits down with me and talks about removing public safety threats from the street to New York. My hometown, I want it to be safe. I want the whole country to be safer. I'm just happy he came to the table and agreed to get us in the Rikers Island, which I think any taxpayer-funded jail that welcomes ICE agents in there to arrest a public safety threat that's in the country illegally is a good thing.
Mr. Homan, I appreciate you clarifying the numbers as you see what the policy determinations are that made the difference. Tell us about what's going on. You're always welcome here to do so.
I appreciate you, Chris. Thank you.
You are welcome to the opportunity. Say hello to your wife, one Sicilian to another. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Coming up, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, okay? Look, you heard that conversation. This is what happens when you take a deal, okay? It raises questions, especially legal questions. You hear what happened today? This judge says, I get, Mr. Prosecutor, you don't want to bring the case. I don't know. It's weird having you and the defense on the same side. I want to bring in another opinion, an independent counsel. In Latin, they call it amicus curiae, friend of the court. Is this about friend or foe? Let's look at it next. I got a little inside scoop for you on it. On YouTube. We're growing at a rate on YouTube that's 4 times faster than Fox, 7 times faster than MSNBC, and 14 times faster than CNN. And we're doing it for the right reasons and for the right constituency. You, critical thinkers who see the limitations of left and right and demand what is reasonable, that represent what I do every night. Thank you to each and every one of you. We appreciate you. All right. This is now officially a weird one. The situation with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, okay? You can feel how you want about the case. You know how I've reported on it in this show. I did not think the initial indictment was a blowaway indictment. Then we learn now that they had another charge they were going to file, but they never did, okay? So Trump wants him to drop the case. He says he never said anything. He didn't know about it. We both know whether or not that's credible. You decide for yourself. The prosecutors say we want to drop the case. The federal judge says, I don't know. This is odd having the prosecution and defense one in the same thing. I think I'll bring in an amicus curiae. What is that? Latin, friend of the court, independent specialty counsel to look at this. Is that legal? Probably. Well, why? I thought the judge said that he was going to, no, what the judge did was he vacated the date for the trial, but he did not decide to drop the charges. He said he wants them reviewed by this independent counsel. Have we ever seen this before? Yes, not often. And when we do, it's usually in civil, not criminal. But we have seen it with Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn was the same thing. The prosecutors were pressured to drop it. They said they would drop it. And then the court said the same thing, brought in an independent counsel to review it. Why? That's a very interesting question. There is a very narrow lane of legal justification for this. And I have to tell you, it can look like overreach by this judge. The prosecutor doesn't want to bring the case. What are we doing here? Let's get perspective from people who have done the job. Former Florida State Judge Jeff Swartz. Your Honor, thank you for being with us. Former New York City prosecutor Paul Callan. Brother, always good to see you. First, Paul,
good to see you.
So far I got it right? Can
Absolutely.
happen, pretty narrow. We saw it with Flynn. When are you allowed to do this? And then I want to use the judge to judge what's happening in this situation. Okay.
Well, it's a very strange situation because normally a judge hears from the defense side and they hear from the prosecution side and they make a decision. Now you appoint an outsider who has no connection to the court system at all. And he's basically saying to this individual, and by the way, a highly qualified guy, Paul Clement was the former Solicitor General of the United States. He's a Republican. He was appointed by G.W. Bush. Very competent guy. But he's not a federal judge, and he's not part of the system. But this judge is bringing him in to get an independent opinion of whether this is the right thing to do, because I think he's looking to restore confidence in the federal judiciary. The public's going to look at this and say, hey, why is this thing being dismissed? Why is the prosecutor walking away from it? And by the way, the prosecutor said, hey, we have a case against him, and we want to be able to renew the case later on. Usually when they dismiss, they say, well, the evidence gone south on us. We can't prove the case. It looks bad on its face. So he wants to bring in an independent person to say the right thing is to dismiss the charge.
Right, but Your Honor, it makes it look bad that he's bringing somebody in. It makes it look suspicious. So what Michael Flynn's case taught us, and of course you know this, Your Honor, but for everybody at home. So they brought in the amicus curiae. It goes to the appellate court. The appellate court says, no, you can't do that. You got a very narrow band. It's got to be for obvious political corruption or abuse of prosecutorial discretion. But then it goes to the full review of the appellate court, what they call en banc, the full 3-judge panel. And they say, no, it was okay. It was okay to have it reviewed. So there is precedent to do this if the judge can show that there's a legitimate question that this is basically a dirty deal. How do you see it, Judge?
Well, what I see here is that I don't think the gentleman who was appointed to do this, who is very conservative, he argued very conservative causes as Solicitor General for G.W. Bush. His job is just to look at the evidence and report to the judge, is there a case here? Is there a possibility of a guilty verdict here? Is there sufficient evidence, including the additional charges that could be brought? And if his answer is yes, this is a prosecuting case, then the judge has to decide whether the evidence that's been put before him related to what occurred with all of these lawyers who were part of this prosecution, people in Washington who were reviewing this prosecution, all resigned because they refused to dismiss the case. One says, I'm not your fool. I'm not going to do that when he talks to Emile Beauvais, right, and says, you do it yourself. Emile Beauvais didn't want to do it himself. What he did is he found a senior prosecutor in Washington to protect the people underneath her to sign the motion. So that's really what's going on here, is to find out. And that's exactly what was done in the Flynn case. And that's exactly what he's trying to determine, whether there was a political deal here as opposed to a legal reason for dismissing the charges. I predicted a few days ago that's exactly what he was going to do.
Oh, really? I thought he was going to say the deal was okay, but that's why you're the judge and I talked to one. But all right, so then answer this for me, Judge, before I let you guys go. And thank you for being here on a Friday night, both of you. So the reason the Flynn thing never got figured out through the legal system, which, by the way, this is not illegal. People keep saying what the district judge just did is illegal. That's not true. It may be warranted or unwarranted, and they can appeal it, but it's not illegal. But with Flynn, Trump pardoned him. So it became what we call in the law moot. It was no longer an issue to be dealt with by the legal system. He will not pardon Adams because he wants hooks in him. That deal that he made said, we will review the charges again after the election. And he did that way, even though he said he didn't know about it, because they want hooks in Adams. So do you think this will be allowed ultimately, Judge?
I do. And I think the judge is going to eventually look down at the DOJ and say, you got three choices. You can dismiss this case with prejudice, and that means you can never try for this or anything tangential, okay? Or you can get the president to give him a pardon like Mr. Flynn got, or I'm going to let this other prosecutor, I'm going to appoint a prosecutor, and I'm going to let him prosecute the case to the end. He has that power. He can do that. And I think those are the three choices he's going to give the DOJ in the end.
Paul, give me a quick take. What happens?
Okay. I don't think he has the power to do that. The only time an independent prosecutor gets appointed is when there's a crime that involves the judiciary, such as contempt of court, and there's a refusal by justice to prosecute it. Here, justice started the prosecution and has said, we might continue the prosecution, but we want to dismiss it for now because we need Adams' help in prosecuting illegal immigrants in New York City.
Right.
This judge, I think, is going to be left with no choice in the end but dismiss the case, because if the prosecution doesn't want to proceed with it, somebody has to present the evidence. And Judge, I don't think that an independent prosecutor could be appointed and sustained by a higher court in this situation.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I appreciate the takes from both of you. I'll tell you what I don't think is going to happen, a pardon, because that would not suit what the president wants, unless it really is about what you fellas are saying, which is just law and order in New York City with migrants. Well, then why not pardon them? Why not pardon them? All right, Judge, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Paul, thank you very much, both of you. Happy Friday night. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Up next, Republican member of Congress, Dr. Rich McCormack. You've seen him on the show before. He faced some tough talk at a town hall in his home state of Georgia last night. Why? DOJ, concerns about DOJ being a violation of how we're supposed to do things. Fair? Unfair? What did he think about it? And I want to ask him about the state of play with two big international issues that I want his take on. Next. Republican member of Congress, Dr. Rich McCormack, did what good congressmen should do. He held a town hall, wanted to listen to people, see where their heads are on things. And he had constituents. Some liked it. Some did not like specifically what's happening with DOJ. Take a listen.
Tyranny is rising in the White House, and a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
By and large, the president has great purview over where a lot of this money goes. Now, some of this is going to be litigated. I'll pause whenever you want, and you can go and yell all you want, but I can't understand 10 people, let alone 100 people at once.
Elon was going to be the main topic tonight, and he's going to continue to be the main topic tonight because we are all freaking pissed off about this. You're going to hear it and feel it.
First of all, good for the member of Congress to go there. He knew what was going to come, and he went anyway. Congressman McCormack joins us now. Appreciate you doing it.
Hey, Marine always runs towards the fight, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you were there. And by the way, that's what you're supposed to do. I get a lot of people in your position avoid it, but I think you did the right thing being there. What was your takeaway from what people are not happy about?
Well, it's interesting. I actually called a reporter that I'm familiar with here at the AJC afterwards and said, what's your honest opinion? What do you think we could do better? What do you think we could do when we're actually talking to people to make it a conversation rather than just a shouting match? And he said the best line tonight is when I said, hey, I'm here. In other words, we're talking. Let's have this conversation. People have a lot of misunderstandings of what the DOJ is and what its powers are or are not. Some people think it has some magical powers to access your personal information, that the digital services that existed for Obama and for Clinton and for other people that didn't exist before. That's just simply not true. We have specific information that's given to government employees in certain bureaucracies in order to have accountability that exists for DOJ also. Where people are really scared, this is where the fear-mongering is coming in from the left side, in my opinion, is that they're saying, we're going to take away your Medicare, we're going to take away your Medicaid, we're going to take away your Social Security, and that's not true either. Now, the government does have the ability to draw back on some new job hires. One of the things I thought was really egregious is that in the last couple of years, the second biggest growth in the job sector has been government. You look at the postmaster, he's had a decrease in 80% of the mailing deliveries, and yet an increase of like 100,000 plus employees. That's just not going to get it done. We have to tighten our belts a little bit because we're way out of balance. Our debt's so far out of whack that we're going to get in trouble, and we're going to be downgraded as an economy, and we're going to lose our place in the world as the economic leaders.
Look, I mean, I get it. The political issue is going to be if you're cutting jobs and it's basically forcing people into unemployment, they're going to be very careful to watch what is done as an offset. And if it's about tax cuts, for people at the top, I think there's a political issue there. But I think that you're being asked to answer for something that you're not responsible for with Doge. This is about style, Doc. This is about, Elon with his stupid hand gesture, and then Bannon makes the same stupid hand gesture at CPAC. All the stupid things that he puts out on Twitter. It's very provocative stuff that is often overreach. He said all that stupid stuff about Social Security, about USAID, keeps being wrong. That's why they're angry. I don't think it's about the left scaring them about entitlements. It's that Elon is playing this up, and I think it's style, and he seems reckless. What am I missing?
Well, I think some of the things that we're missing is that American people as a whole don't want to see wasteful government spending. I don't think anybody does. And when we do identify two things, anytime you make a false statement, this is the problem too, is when AI catches the wrong things and mislabels things, people will focus on that 1 out of 10 things. But most Americans don't want to see a study on parrots' self-esteem or hamsters fighting on steroids or the other ridiculous things that we know we don't want to spend money on. And they focus on the one thing that's not factual instead of the 10 things that are factual. And I can understand why people would be really concerned when their Medicaid is going to get cut. But quite frankly, we spent a ton of government money on people who came here illegally, staying in 4-star hotels, on their health care rather than our health care. And as a result, we've kind of bankrupted this government because of irresponsibility. Now, it's not a partisan issue. I'm not blaming this on Republicans or Democrats. I'm blaming it on the Washington swamp, the bureaucracy, something that needs to be rooted out and dealt with right now.
Listen, everybody's in favor of cutting money until it's something that they care about. It's just, I really do believe a big part of this is about how you go about it. And I wanted your take about something else that falls into that category also. We both know the president did not need to bash Ukraine the way he has been recently under the guise of making Putin feel good about making a deal. The administration's backed off it. Other Republicans have come out. You had the New York Post say this guy's a dictator, not Zelensky. What is that about? And are you worried about it hurting the situation instead of helping it?
Well, I certainly think it's good to have differences of opinion. I'm a big believer in what Reagan said 40 years ago at Point du Hoc when he said, isolationism never was and never will be the answer to an expansionist, tyrannical government. I think we need to stand fast on those agreements we had in the Budapest Accord on a country in Ukraine that gave up their nuclear arms with the agreement we would protect them if they were invaded.
Right.
Russia signed that too, by the way. We're going to have a different opinion. A lot of people think that's wasteful money. I think it's protecting a top 5 country and resources that would otherwise be pilfered for North Korea, Iran, and China by Russia. I think it's an important country to protect, but I don't want to spend American lives there, and I certainly don't want to see waste. Now, the question is, though, Where did that missing $100 billion go? I don't think that's Zelensky's fault. I want to know what the World Bank and USAID did with that money. I think everybody wants to know, including Zelensky and the United States. Let's find out and root out that waste.
Fair. Dr. McCormack, appreciate you. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good weekend. The representative from Georgia, always welcome on the show. Take care, sir.
Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Up next, you know what that is. Semper Fi, it's the Marines' motto, ever faithful. Tomorrow, 6 more hostages are supposed to be released by Hamas. Will one of them be the last American being held? 21-year-old Idan Alexander. His release will only happen if there's a phase 2 to the ceasefire agreement. Is that likely, given what we just learned about how those 2 babies died or were killed, according to the IDF? The father of this beautiful young man with Trump's special envoy for hostage affairs. Hear from both of them next.
1 second, you feel safe. And then?
The police are on their way.
Well, you still do.
Did you know taking Zysol at night relieves allergies while you sleep? So you wake refreshed for a more productive day. Get 24-hour continuous relief that does not fade. Be wise old. Take Zysol at night.
I think Adnan will come home. I do believe that. In my heart, I believe that. Right now, under President Trump, it has become extremely clear that there are massive consequences that will happen. And I will tell you, I will personally hunt all of them down if they touch a hair on his head.
Trump's special envoy for hostage affairs, Adam Bowler, on the show, promising to bring the last American hostage being held by Hamas home, 21-year-old Idan Alexander. Now, that release was expected as part of phase 2 of the ceasefire. Do we believe there still is a phase 2, especially with the reports today from the IDF that those Bibas children were not killed by an airstrike? Israel says they were murdered at the hands of Hamas. They used the words bare hands. Idan Alexander's father, Adi Alexander, joins me now with the envoy. Thank you very much, Mr. Bowler. Thank you, Adi, for being with me. Mr. Bowler, what can you tell us about the expectation that the American comes home this weekend?
I think that we're pushing for that and we'll never stop at that. Adi and I talk all the time. And what I would say to Hamas very directly, and Steve Witkoff and I spoke today, the president responds to unilateral action. They need to release him right now.
Adi, how do you balance your love and your fear for your son with the outrage at what you have now heard that Hamas did to these two babies?
I think we really have to remain focused on the living hostages, and it will be much more time for revenge later. As we battle ISIS and we battle Al-Qaeda for so many years, it will be time for that. But right now, really the focus should be on how do we get all these people back home.
What do we need to know about your son other than how handsome he is?
He's a, all-American kid, Jersey boy, great swimmer, tall guy, loved both of his countries. That's why he decided to get himself drafted to IDF and found himself on that tragic morning of October 7 next to the Gaza border, and he was taken hostage.
What do you and the family do to keep yourselves sane without being consumed with worry of what his life is like and what may happen?
First, we had some signs of life since the beginning. Even on October 7, he was seen by the other hostages that were released in November of 2023. He tried to help Thai workers to negotiate between them and Hamas, explaining to Hamas that these are not the Israelis, they're only the workers. So he's a strong kid. And then came the this hostage video on Thanksgiving's weekend that kept us. He asked us actually to stay strong for him, saying that it will be over soon. So we have to stay strong for him, for ourselves, and for our other kids.
Adam, what do you know about the tenuous nature of the next phase of this ceasefire, given, this explosive revelation from the IDF about what happened to those babies?
I know that Hamas responded. I know that initially they sent the wrong person in a coffin, and I know that they brutally murdered a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old. But they did respond, and they did push Shiri back. And so tomorrow I expect a release of hostages, and I know that our main focus is the release of all living hostages. And I think Adi said it exactly right. They need to release our American, and they need to release the 4 American bodies they continue to hold. And let's make that first and foremost and all we focus on, and we'll worry about the rest later.
Why do you think they sent the wrong person?
Honestly, probably because either they're incompetent, because they're down to fifth-string people, or because what they did was What they did was horribly mutilate and horribly handle Shiri, and they were afraid to send her, and so they send somebody else. I don't know how they possibly thought Israel would not check DNA evidence. It speaks to incompetence to some extent, but I think there's probably a combination of both of those things.
Adam, what happens if they don't return the hostages? They don't return specifically Idan?
I think that you had an individual in Gaza that Israel eliminated because they were 100% against. But I think for those people that listen to TV now at Hamas, thousands of people don't want to lose their lives right away. And I think that if they mess with a hair on Idan's head, it will be serious, because the President of the United States cares massively about our Americans and cares massively about Idan.
Mr. Bowler, thank you. Good luck with your work. And Adi, of course, all thoughts are with you and your family for the return of your son and an end to this situation. We're here if we can help in any way.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. And Adam Bowler, as you know, I'm a call away if I can help with your duties at all. I know you got a big job, and we'll all be watching. Good luck. God bless. We'll be right back. Certain things are obvious. Certain things are almost impossible to understand. Elon Musk is having trouble with a lot of people in this country because of how he's doing things. Not just his stupid gesture, and I don't know why Bannon did what he did. If they don't want people to talk about Nazis and all these comparisons, don't act that way. And how they're going about things seems obnoxious, seems almost like a head fake. It doesn't seem like an audit at all because they keep being wrong, okay? With Mayor Adams, hey, if you really care about injustice, pardon him. Trump didn't pardon Mayor Adams because he wants hooks in him to have him do what he wants him to do. And if that judge wants to really be in the business of fairness, he should have them dismiss the charges with prejudice. Let Adams off the hook, but not some deal like Trump made with him. And then you get what's happening in the Middle East. I don't know how I would make it as the Alexander family. I don't know how they deal with their pain. I can't even think about my kid in college because I'm worried about what's happening, let alone in the hands of these animals. But